There's a wave across the land. We are moving, moving. It takes one step, it takes your voice, saying, I am not hearing if you are not naming it. I am not stopping if you are not changing it. Here are my hands, let's see what they're making. In the morning, in the rise up, there's a bridge from all that's been in the dawning. The vines are pushing through the pavement. We were born of burning hearts. We are tearing off the reins. From the ground up we will build it. From the clouds above we'll rain it. From the crowd up we will raise it. From the ground up.
I'm Nisha Moodley, and this is Devotion, the podcast about showing up in new ways to weave a new world together. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Devotion Podcast, episode 7. Thank you so much for being here today. So we are still in the midst of a global pandemic. Feels like that more some places than others. And life, as most of us know it, has changed quite dramatically in this year, we'll say. And that's significant. You know, I sometimes wonder when things shift, and they will, because that's the rule of life. Things are always changing. What will they change to? You know, where is this all going? And I've been speaking with a lot of folks lately who are feeling some degree of disorientation, confusion, not quite sure what the future looks like for them with their work, with their relationships, with where to live. So many different questions swirling for many of us right now. And I want to talk about that today because I feel like when we live inside of a culture or a society or family where there's a high value on certainty and clarity and obvious progress, achievement, whatever, there is often, what goes along with that is often a discomfort with uncertainty, a discomfort with these times of disorientation, lack of clarity, lack of focus. And yet here we are, and that feels like the norm more than anything else, perhaps. And I think there is also a danger to clinging to certainty when there isn't actual true clarity. It just becomes another mode of attachment. And, you know, we could say a lot of things about this pandemic, but I think for many people, it has brought about an examination or exploration of what our priorities are. And not just the pandemic, but the increased awareness around systemic and institutionalized racism, and a lot of the things that have been happening in our world in the last many months, I think are having a lot of folks, a lot of thoughtful people, take a deeper look at what we want and why, what we've been going for and why, what we've been creating and why, and what we want to create and aim for going forward. And those big questions make their way into all the little questions of our lives. What we do, how much we charge for it, who we, work with, who we work for, who we partner with and why, and where we send our kids to school, or do we? What do we think about school? There are a lot of questions. And so I want to talk about embracing this disorientation because I think it's a critical aspect of progress and growth and healing. And I believe that what the world is showing us right now, or one of the things that the world is showing us right now, is that we need healing. We need healing on deep and profound levels, relationally, in our relationship with the planet, on our relationship with one another and our bodies and ourselves. We need healing, and healing is a messy, nonlinear path. And so that's a lifelong journey, we can assume. And staying with that healing, well, first choosing it and then staying with it, is going to require a reorientation, because we're orienting away from the systems, whether they are our own nuclear family living, let's say, or financial hoarding or financial instability or whatever it may be, institutionalized inequity, towards something that is whatever happens on the other side of healing, a more beautiful world. And in order to stop moving in that direction and move in a direction that is more beautiful, that is about healing and liberation, then we have to first get disoriented from where we were headed and reoriented towards somewhere new. And if we don't allow for this feeling of disorientation inside of us, and as a collective, we will cling for and fight for what has been. We will fight to, maintain what has so clearly not going to nurture a path forward for us. And frankly, just not where I think the world is going, at least if I have anything to do with it. So I think one key aspect of allowing for the disorientation is to normalize the feeling. And I think, at least as a society, we may have normalized some feelings more than others. We have more comfort or space or allowance for some feelings more than others. And confusion is something that we tend to not have a lot of space for. But what is disorientation if not some kind of confusion, a lack of full clarity? And so I like to hold a beautiful frame around disorientation instead of a frame of wrongness or badness. And so I've come to value this, even though I also resist it, because I'm human and I'm conditioned, of course, in all of my humanness. But I've come to also value disorientation through the frame of sitting in the questions, living with the questions, being with the questions. Like, oh, wow, I have questions right now, and I'm going to be with the questions, sit with the questions, allow for the questions, and not pretend that there isn't clarity until there's clarity. And so I think normalizing it might be for ourselves, just holding a beautiful frame around it. Like, okay, here it is. I'm not clear, and wonderful. I must be unsticking from an old way, and I'm finding my way towards something new, something more beautiful, something more healing. And I'm just in the midst of that transition right now, and things feel unclear. I think that normalizing disorientation can also be spreading the narrative that it's okay to not know, that it's okay to be uncertain, and allowing for the uncertainty of other people, allowing for their disorientation at times, as we're in this great unlearning together. and talking about it more, talking about it more with beloveds and friends and colleagues. And, I often find that a lot of our relationship or relationality with other folks is built on a lot of performance. And so, where can we strip away the performance and just be in the realness together without needing to fix anyone's lack of clarity or anyone's disorientation, anyone's still being in the questions? And also, really make sure that while we're in this place, which can be really uncomfortable, I think, for so many of us, especially if we didn't grow up in homes or in cultural contexts that celebrated and allowed for questioning, and allowed for uncertainty, I think it's really important to recognize that we are also creatures that naturally seek comfort. That when things feel very unstable, we will naturally try to cling to something familiar. And so, how can we create then some sort of feeling of stability when there isn't a rock solid sense of where we're headed, or what's next for us? And this might be with our business, like I said, it might be with relationship. It might be questions around capitalism, like, "Ooh, what is the alternative?" That's a big question. And what is capitalism, anyways? And how does it exist inside of me? And how does it exist in my choices and my relationships? And, all of these questions. How do we create some sense of comfort in our lives and stability in our lives while we navigate the destabilizing experience of being inside of big life-changing questions? And so I will often say, I'm here to journey with you into or through a dark night of the soul or into the mystery. And I'm happy for you to bring your blankie. Like, it's okay to need and crave creature comforts. I think it's very human. But being choiceful about that will mean that I think we're probably less likely to choose things that create, that are damaging for us. And also that we're less likely, perhaps, to rebound or reflex into just kind of clinging to the known and the familiar and putting our blinders on and trying to forget that change is afoot. And so there are a couple of different pieces of this comfort creating. One that I find helpful, anyways, one is really being clear on what our foundational pillars of nourishment are. So, foundational pillars of nourishment may be exercise, it may be conversations with friends, it might be your hydration, it might be your morning practice or your prayers. But what are those kind of 3 to 5 pillars of things that are deeply nourishing for you that have to become non-negotiables? Because those pillars of nourishment then kind of create this stable foundation from which we can go into the mystery and explore some of these bigger questions, some of these more potentially life-altering questions. And then also, what added comfort is needed right now? So there might be aspects of foundational nourishment that we have, that we always have, that we always hold, or that we ought to for our own, well-being, for our own nourishment. And then are there other things that are needed right now to bring some comfort, to bring some sense of stability inside of this disorientation or feeling of chaos? And so maybe that is like going to bed really early for a while. Maybe that is, watching a funny movie once a week, or or taking a week off from social media, which maybe we should all do. But what are some added comforts that, they may or may not relate as foundational nourishment for you, but just other things that you can bring in right now? I want to share that something that I've actually recently been in this sort of disorientation to reorient around my work, really asking myself, how do I want to be working going forward? How do I feel about exchange, monetary exchange, and what is the future of business that I want to align with now? And what does aligning with that now look like? Does it look like leaping into that future today? Does it look like being on step, the next step, and there are 20 more to go? What exactly does that look like? But really asking those deep questions for myself. And like a couple of pieces of foundational nourishment that I will share for myself. One is really needing to have a moment for myself each day in the morning where it is just me, quiet, no dog around, no kid around, for 5 minutes. I know, again, this isn't possible for everybody or available to everybody. So we get to see what's available for us, but that is one element of foundational nourishment for me. And also for me, it's always food. Having really nourishing food that makes my body feel good and strong. And there are more that I'm being mindful of right now. And then one of the added comforts for me, because I have access to it right now because we don't have anyone visiting or staying over, is I have for the last several nights been sleeping downstairs by myself, which is amazing. And it's not necessarily foundational nourishment. I didn't the other night. It's okay, but it's really supporting me through this time to have a little bit more space for myself and energy to recharge my batteries without having anyone around. So those are a few personal examples, but just knowing that, again, as we are venturing into the mystery, as we are being in the unknown, as we're allowing ourselves to disorient in our businesses or in our partnership or wherever it may be in order to reorient, it's okay to choose and have some comforts along the way. I, in fact, think it's important, and nourishment is critical. And also calling in a support system, who's going to walk with us, who's aware that we're in this moment of questioning, and who has the capacity or is willing to expand into the capacity to be with us by our side in whatever way while we navigate this without making us wrong for asking the questions. I find, in the world of entrepreneurship, I have historically found it challenging to find certainly a dominant narrative in the world of entrepreneurship that allows for these questions of what could happen that isn't capitalism. How do we actually create equity? Some of these bigger questions that I've wrestled with and continue to wrestle with in my own business. And so I don't expect every entrepreneur to be able to sit in those questions with me. Also, entrepreneurs are humans. And so I don't expect all humans to sit in that question with me or those questions with me. But who are the people who I do trust to sit in those questions with me, who I do trust to be willing to hold nuance and do their own critical analysis, who are willing to sit with that discomfort themselves, even if they're not asking the exact same questions that I'm asking, are they willing to ask themselves deep, hard, complex, potentially life-changing questions? And those are the folks who I tend to seek to rally and also be there for as well. Yeah. And, that is whether I'm choosing a therapist to work with or a business advisor or a friend that I feel drawn to call on support with. I don't find that when I'm in a period of deep questions, that what I'm looking for specifically with business is a strategist. I find what I'm looking for is someone who can hold a deep space and hang out there, hang out in those depths and ask the questions and allow for there to be, allow for the answers to emerge and allow for there to not be answers when that's what's true. So I want to say that support isn't always driving towards clarity at warp speed. It is often just allowing me to be in the questions and not alone in them. And then I think another big thing is often when we're sitting with these questions, and I think this probably weaves back to, creating that comfort for ourselves as we're in the process of disorienting. But often the thing that keeps us, or one of the things that keeps us from going really deep into these explorations is we're like, yeah, but, right? So, should I stay or should I go in this business partnership? Yeah, but we've invested so much together. Yeah, but we blah, 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 blah. Yeah, but, should I stay in this relationship? Yeah, but my family really loves them. Yeah, but we, all the things, I feel like there's a change coming in my work. Yeah, but I really need to make money. I'm not saying any of these things is invalid or that they ought not to be considered. It's just that they tend to really get in the way of the deeper listening. So I love to, when that comes up, sit with what are the genuine needs here and let me make sure that the needs are handled. So if there's a financial need, does it mean that I need to get a part-time job or, we need to move in with our parents or say, who knows what it is, right? But is there, do we ask for a loan from someone? Is there a creative way to get the needs met that allows still for the space? That still allows for the space. If we keep moving so quickly, if we keep soldiering forward, we are going to maintain the status quo. So I do believe that it will take some fierce and courageous devotion to allow ourselves to sit in the questions and to slow down in the questions. And I think that leads me to the last piece that I want to share, which is that so often what keeps us from letting go into the mystery and from staying with the questions, staying in that uncomfortable, sometimes space of questioning, is that we are so habituated towards keeping up the pace, keeping up the quick pace. And I've been saying for years, embrace your pace, embrace your pace. And I feel like that statement alone just keeps coming back and teaching me, let's just say it keeps coming back around and teaching me on the spiral of time. Every once in a while it cycles back around and I'm like, oh gosh, okay. I'm understanding more of what that means, but I'm unmapping. Of course, I'm unmapping. And so even though I have this notion, this North Star that embracing our pace is crucial, I also am still learning what that means all the time, because how do I know what my pace really is? I've probably been told to hurry up my whole life. I don't know how many times I've told my child that we're in a rush or we need to hurry, and I say it with a cheerful voice. And and I'm saying this recognizing like, oh boy, I might have to undo that or help him undo that at some point. This hurry, go rush that we're in to what? Rush to what? Rush to death? Rush to produce? Rush to consume? Rush to prove? Rush to gain? So embracing our pace, I find, is also a lifelong journey. And the access that I've found so far that has served me most is getting with nature, not manicured nature, but like feet on the sand at the side of the water, or, feet in the dirt in the woods, or whatever climate you live in, where nature hasn't been sort of beautified by humans, as if we could make this beautiful Mother Earth more beautiful. She's gorgeous. And so getting into as much, if we can, getting our feet on earth, getting our bodies onto the earth in a place where it hasn't been manicured, overly manicured, let's say. If we can't find like back, spine up against a tree, butt on the ground, spine up against a tree. But some time to be with nature. And I'm always resisting this and finding myself too busy for it, and always remembering again, it's where all my best clarity comes, or a lot of it anyways. And just breathing with the pace of nature, actually. Feeling what the heartbeat of the redwood tree is when I lean my back against it. Putting my feet into a creek and breathing with the pace of the water and the rocks. And sitting at the edge of the ocean and feeling the waves come in and go out. And noticing our own natural cycles. When do I feel tired? When do I have energy? How does that change throughout the day and in different parts of the month, for example, in different seasons? And practicing honoring those more as a way to create more space for our humanity and our human selves, so that we are freed up to imagine what could be, what will be if we have our way. And also as a means of unmapping from what has been. So I highly recommend Adrienne Maree Brown's work and her books, Emergent Strategy and Pleasure Activism. I know there are a lot of other incredible people out there who are doing and have been doing for years and did when they were alive, that I also align with. But for today, I wanted to share with you the work of Adrienne Maree Brown. And so those are a few thoughts on embracing the beauty of disorientation. And I think one more note before I go is just a prayer that we have the courage to encourage other people who are in the midst of a disorientation themselves, to help normalize it for them as well. to allow for that space of curiosity and openness and fear that can come up as we consider what could be next, what could be new, what could be more beautiful. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate you. Thank you for being here. And I hope you have a beautiful rest of your week. Just kidding. I forgot something. Listen, before you head out today, I want to let you know about a workshop that I have coming up called embodyyourleadership.com. You can check it out. We put a link in the show notes, and you can also just head to embodyyourleadership.com. This workshop is all about expanding your freedom, your inner freedom, to show up with vision and devotion in service of this more beautiful world that we are envisioning together. And we're going to do some of that visioning together on the call. And I really look forward to connecting with you there. I feel like in these times, perhaps more than any other time, at least since I've been running my business, which is 12 years, there is such a profound need for those of us who give a shit to find the ways to show up that are nourishing to us and also nourishing to the vision that we're holding for the world. So, and to do it in our own unique ways. So I hope I'll see you there, embodyyourleadership.com. You can also check out the link in the show notes. Thanks again. Thank you so much for being here, beloved. I want to extend my heartfelt invitation for you to join our podcast Inner Circle for free at devotionpodcast.com. You'll receive access to show notes and free bonuses, including my favorite guided meditation when you sign up. If you loved this episode, please share it, subscribe, and I'd be so grateful if you would leave a review. Our mixing and sound design is by Lou Janot, brand design by Neverland Studio, episode images by Liv Haddon, and our theme song is From the Ground Up by Ayla Nerio. Thank you all, and thank you so much for being here. I'm so grateful, and I'll talk to you soon.
We were born up in a race. Clouds above, we're raining. From the crowd up, we were raising. From the ground up, we were building. From the clouds above, we're raining. From the crowd up, we were raising. From the ground up.